Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. So, while I go through online, having a look at seeing what's happening within the sexless space, there is one common, or at least two common emotions that men share when it comes to being in a sexless relationship. One is of resentment. The other one is of frustration. And I guess there's other ones that contribute to it, like anger and so on and so forth. But the main one is resentment. And, this frustration and resentment is a byproduct of a big problem. And usually most people think the problem is the lack of sex. The lack of sex is the outcome of something that you've not resolved before. Now, it's before you start going into childhood trauma and all that stuff where people direct you to, most people direct you to saying that maybe she's got childhood trauma and hence the reason why she's not interested in sex, which is a complete bullshit because if you had sex way before that and things were amazing, if things stop, it can be contributed by the childhood that, within a relationship or marriage. Whenever you've got childhood trauma, that can be exacerbated tenfold. So you can 10x those childhood traumas within a relationship because you're close together. And over a period of time, you figure out ways of triggering each other. And usually it's just this power struggle where maybe you have not put your boundaries and so on and so forth. So that's a different topic and a different thing to talk about. But generally, most people go down that route. And usually it's the therapist that gives you that idea. So you've gone to the therapist, they start talking about childhood trauma, start talking about avoidance and all these attachment styles and all things that seem very logical and seem to be a good way of resolving it. But then quickly you find out that the therapist has got no idea what they're talking about. This is more to do with sexual attraction, and as the longer you go to this therapist, the harder it is to actually gain any sexual attraction. So you then go down the route of maybe I need to create more date nights. Maybe let me do more around the house. Maybe let me do certain things in order to look favorably on her. So she's tired, let me make her rest, and then let me do everything. And you're doing all these things in order to impress her. And the longer you do this, the more you realize that none of that is of any effect in order to get you out of the sexless rut. So all of a sudden, you find yourself with resentment because now you're thinking, I'm married, I'm providing, I'm doing all of these things in order to make the life better, our family life better, and I'm not getting anything for it. And the common thing I always see is people that call themselves roommates or they call themselves a paycheck. And this is how you might end up start feeling. And generally, when I look at this, I feel sorry for the guys. But one of the things that I recognize is that people do not recognize that these are just emotions that are in reaction or at least signals to a problem. And like I said before, the problem isn't the sexless of the relationship. This is the effect of something that you've not done. And this thing that you've not done is learning the skills of seduction. Now, when I talk about seduction, most people think of kissing and touching her up before having sex, or whispering things into to her, and all of these other things. And that's part of seduction, but that's like the 10% of seduction. The other 90% of seduction has got a lot of other things. And from previous episodes, we talked about things like compliance and investment. We talked about there's two different types of compliance. There's passive and there's active compliance. And there's all these things that you can put into your seduction skills. And as you put them along, you can actually start changing things around in terms of a sexless relationship. From what we've done within our program, the Reignited Men, most of the times it takes about 2 weeks to actually start shifting things within a sexless relationship, because you're employing these little things that you're changing in terms of behavior. Because again, the sexlessness is because of behavior. It's been caused by behavior from both of you. And it's not just it's both of you have contributed to this, and over a period of time it goes. And generally, women are sort of conditioned to follow when it comes to sex. So if you're not leading, therefore you end up in a frustrated place, because the one common theme I hear, guys, is that she never initiates anything. Well, she never initiates anything because you yourself are not a very good leader, and the fact that you're not leading, she's not going to be feeling comfortable to then lead. So again, you end up in a sexless relationship, and 9 times out of 10 you look at the lack of sex as the problem. But I want to point you today that the problem isn't the actual sexless relationship, it's the skills that you lack. And the moment you fix these skills, everything will change within your relationship. And I've seen this happen all the time. I remember the first time I went to Muay Thai, lacked skills, very frustrating, very very angry because I was being beaten up by girls. Not beaten up, but when we were doing sparring, they were much more skilled than I was, and I was trying to move. They were moving much better than I was, and not that the girls are not bad, they were really good. The guys as well. And when I was being shown things, for example, when I was learning, there's what they call a switch kick, I was always getting it wrong, and it took me a long time to actually do it. And this was the process of developing the skill. Now, when you're developing a skill, there'll be frustration as you are learning the skill, because it takes time to condition your body, to condition your mind to actually execute on the thing. So most people, when they are working on trying to develop the skill of seduction, the one problem that most guys have is the fact that when they are pushed back or they see any negativity, they implode. And when you implode, you're never going to learn the skill. So now imagine using that analogy of me doing Muay Thai. The first time I went over there and I failed to do the skill, and then I sulked and then never went back, my skill would never develop. And this is the attitude that most people end up in. And then they end up defaulting back into trying to introduce even more sex within the relationship, and then getting even more rejected, and therefore they end up with this resentment and frustration. But really, if you were doing something else, you would be avoiding resentment. All these other negative emotions, you'd avoid them. And again, it's not about avoiding them, it's actually embracing them and thinking, this is good that I'm feeling frustrated. This is good that I'm feeling a bit of resentment. Not good as in that you've got resentment, but it's a good indicator of that there's things that you need to resolve. And by understanding that, then it actually gives you that opportunity to actually execute different things and really start seeing any progress in terms of when you implement new things. And also, as you implement new things, she will resist. She won't want to engage with the things that you're trying to execute. And the fact that she's not trying to engage, you take it as not yet or maybe, and continue doing what you need to be doing. And the more you do that, I can guarantee you the better it will get over time. So now, if you're the one of those guys that is feeling frustrated, feeling anger, feeling resentment, feeling real negative feelings within a relationship, you feel like a roommate, you feel like this person is using you as a paycheck, well, we've got a Facebook group. You can go and join our Facebook group. You get the opportunity to meet with a like-minded man. But also, you also get an opportunity to come to a custom seduction blueprint. You get a custom seduction blueprint. You come for a call, and this is where we'll find out more about a relationship. We'll give you that custom blueprint so you can go back to your relationship and start fixing it with the right skills to change it. So thank you very much for listening, guys, and hopefully this has been impactful as it's been when I spoke to a gentleman recently, and this is what's inspired this episode where we're talking about emotions, and I actually realized that there's no real understanding of what the emotions are, and there's no real understanding on what the problem is. The problem is in the sexless relationship. The emotions are just indicators of the problem that you've not really resolved, and the problem is the fact that you do lack the skills of seduction. Obviously, there's other circumstances where the partner is got some medical issues, which then that's a different story. But generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, it's a seduction issue. So again, if you want to learn more, go to Thriving Tribesmen Facebook group, and we'll give you more lessons over there. If you want to get a custom seduction blueprint, you'll find the link over there, and it will send you to a calendar. You book your call, and then we'll walk you through exactly what it entails in order to change your relationship from sexless to sexual success. So thank you very much for listening. Take care.